On September 15, 2018 in Las Vegas, a 43-year-old Shawn Rhoden walks onto the Mr. Olympia stage and does the impossible.
And the title of 2018 Mr. Olympia to our winner and new Olympia champion.
He not only ends Phil Heath's 7-year reign, but he also becomes the oldest Mr. Olympia in history. What the audience witnessed was one of the greatest comeback stories in bodybuilding history. A man returning to the stage after 7 years of absence, alcoholism, depression, and 2 suicide attempts to win a title nobody thought he had half a chance at. But this triumph was very short-lived. 9 months later, he's facing 3 felony charges, and the federation that just crowned him strips him of everything. His magazine coverage, his pro card, and he became the only Mr. Olympia in history to be banned. Before making a single defense of his title, his career had already ended. 3 years later, he died alone at the age of 46, with the most important question of his life still unanswered. From a Jamaican village kid to one of the greatest upsets in bodybuilding, to an early death that shook the sport. This is the story of the man bodybuilding tried to erase.
I grew up in a village, a very small town in Jamaica, just outside of Kingston called St. Thomas. There wasn't much to it. It was country. We grew up in a house that was 2 rooms. I slept head to foot with my 3 other brothers. But for us, it was paradise. I could walk out my back door and it would be like an apple tree, a mango tree, sugar cane. 45 minutes away was the beach. But we grew up having everything that we needed and not what we wanted. We used to wear hand-me-downs. For my older brother, I get his clothes. The clothes that I get to my other brother, that goes to my younger brother. Took showers in a river, what most people call a creek, across the street from us. There wasn't a day that goes by that I could ever remember complaining. I came to the U.S. in 1990. 30 years ago, I never thought we would have left here and moved to the United States. But my dad had this crazy idea that he wanted, something better for us. My dad was into construction. I used to see my dad get up every day. It'd be 120-degree weather outside, and he's out the door, he's at work, and never complained. He never took a day off, never complained of a headache. I've always said that bodybuilding is easy because I've watched what he did his entire life and never complained. I'm getting paid to go to the gym to work out.
You didn't start with bodybuilding?
I just started bodybuilding. I was a soccer player. I thought I was going to be playing, for maybe in the English Premier League. Up until 16, 17, I played soccer almost every single day. Even when bodybuilding found me, it was by accident. I got dragged to the gym by a cousin that told me I need to work out to get stronger. That first couple of days, I couldn't understand why people would go to the gym. I'm like, who goes to the gym to torture yourself and then wake up the next morning and do it again?
What was the switch? What turned it?
Okay, the switch for me was this. I was in a car accident and I ended up cutting 9 tendons. I received a phone call saying that my scholarship was lost in another department. I had a pigskin scholarship for swimming and soccer. And 2 weeks later, it was like, hey, we're so sorry, your funds was lost in another department. So I started rehabbing.
I couldn't grip anything. I had no grip strength. I learned to live with it, and I learned to train with it.
I was doing that for myself, and I fell in love with lifting. And it wasn't even about competing anymore. It was like, I'm working on me. But that's what I felt it happened to me. It was like, that way, that's your purpose.
By the summer of 1992, life in the Washington, D.C. area had already reshaped everything. Shawn was 17. His cousin, John Lancaster, noticed his rapid progress and pushed him into his first teenage contest. I was 153 pounds, he said. I felt like I was nothing but a ripped set of abs. But I won, and all of a sudden, I was like, this is fun. Shawn was introduced to Yanni Schaumburger, a Maryland native, 1995 Team Universe champion and 3-time top 5 Masters Olympia finisher. He gave Shawn the first real assignment. You have good genetics, lots of potential. Now, you've just got to grow. Working out under his tutelage, Shawn filled out his skinny frame and kept winning show after show. And in 1996, the 21-year-old achieved his first real adult-level victory when he won the National Eastern Classic in New Jersey. A back injury sidelined him for the rest of the year, but he came back in 1997 at the Mid-Atlantic National Bodybuilding Championship, finishing second overall and winning the Posers Award that night. For the next 4 years, Shawn moved up the NPC ladder the slow way. By 1999, at 24, he placed third at the NPC Universe Championships, his first serious national-level showing. By 2001, he was 26 and finishing second in the light heavyweight class of that same competition, and was within touching distance of his pro card. Breakthrough was right there, just one good show away. Then came 2002. Shawn moved up to the heavyweight class at the Nationals, a logical step for a man finally filling out his frame. He should have placed well, but he finished 14th. But on stage that night, something was off. Because by the time Shawn stepped on stage at the 2002 Nationals, the most important person of his life was already in a hospital bed, and he had no idea his entire world was about to collapse. When the phone rang in 2002, it was Shawn's brother bearing the worst news of his life.
2002, I remember, it was the day after Christmas. I got a phone call that my dad was in a hospital. I've never seen my dad sick a day of his life, so it was kind of shocking to hear that. And did some more tests. They found out that he had stage 4 lung cancer, and they gave him 3 months to live. He made it to almost 1 year. I went from seeing my dad being Superman to I could pick him up and carry him around in one hand. The day he passed away, they called us and told us, hey, you guys need to come. He's not gonna make it. Like the night we were in the hospital, looked over at me and said, hey, when are you gonna get back on stage? We all kind of knew it then that, okay, this was his making his rounds. He was my biggest fan and my biggest support. So after he passed away, I quit bodybuilding. Never set foot in the gym. I quit from 2002 till end of 2008. Started drinking and partying and everything else that you could think of, became an alcoholic, and I just quit. I didn't want to be a bodybuilder anymore. And I drank and I drank and I drank and I drank. Tried to kill myself twice. That moment, it was, a mixture of being depressed, being an alcoholic, being suicidal.
For most of his life, the gym had been his answer to everything. Every time something tried to break Shawn, he'd answer it with another set, another rep, another show. But this time was different, and it seemed like there was no coming back from this. Shawn eventually took a regular 9-to-5 job doing kitchen design at a flooring company. The pattern was mechanical. Wake up, go to work, come home, drink, play video games, sleep it off, repeat. In the span of 6 to 8 months, I drank more alcohol than most people drink their entire lives, he later admitted.
Wake up one morning, go to the bathroom, and you pee in blood. Normal person would go, oh shit. Let me go to the hospital. I'm like, I went to work, got off work, walked to the liquor store, came home, drank some more, played some video game, woke up the next morning, and I'm like, still doesn't hit me and I did the same thing. I was like, oh well.
By the 5th morning, however, he finally went to the hospital and was immediately diagnosed with a liver, kidney, and urinary tract infection. That was the breaking point.
Until I ended up in the hospital with blood in my urine, and it was kind of a wake-up call. I drank to stay numb because my dad passed away. To me, to this day, my dad is and always will be my biggest fan. He used to walk around with VHS tape in his car. When I decided I was going to quit, I kept hearing my dad's voice. The last thing he said to me before he passed away was, when are you getting back on the stage? Incredible. That haunted me for 7 years. I know the more I drank, I would just stay numb, and here I am, sitting in the hospital room going, I just need a drink. I need to get out of here. But I remember when I checked out, when I got home, I just remember getting up and just start pouring stuff down the drain. I got to quit. I got to quit. Wanting better for myself. Well, not just for me, but for my dad. I was like, I'm going to do cold turkey. 1 minute freezing, the next minute, feel like you're burning up, throwing up, diarrhea, you name it. That was me for 72 hours.
Emerging from addiction, Shawn started taking each day one by one and immersed himself in work. He stayed off the bottle, but indulged in junk food, and As he lost his muscularity and condition, his former life as a bodybuilder slipped further away. He'd been 28 when his father died, and now he was in his early 30s. The years he should have been peaking, the years his rivals were stacking pro cards and Olympia placings, were already gone, and they weren't coming back. By every reasonable measure, Shawn Rhoden's bodybuilding career was over before it had ever really started. It started as a favor. Shawn's cousin, Mark Forrester, was preparing for a bodybuilding show and needed someone backstage to help him through the chaos of competition day, pumping up and handling oil. Shawn agreed to help.
And I remember sitting in the last row and I'm looking at guys that I compete against. And I'm like, man, these guys are tiny. And every single person that was sitting in that row started laughing. They're like, dude, seriously, you're fat, you're out of shape, and you're talking about these guys. At the time I was thinking, I had nothing but time, dude. I'm not drinking anymore. I need an outlet.
I could beat these guys, was his first thought. Give me a couple of months, and I could beat them.
Funny thing is, the next morning, I had a friend of mine, Mike Moore, called me and he goes, bro, listen, man, I just got a job. I'm the general manager at the Gold's Gym. Give your friends and family a discount. I'm like, you just seem as if everything was just lining up.
The next morning, and for many after that, Shawn made his way to the gym, undertaking what proved to be a much more difficult challenge than he anticipated.
I remember the first time back in the gym, trying to bench like 25-pound plates on each side. The entire time you could hear the bar rattle, like. And I'm like, what's wrong with the bar? I didn't realize I was shaking. It's like your body is like, what are we doing here? Like, I didn't sign up for this. I thought we quit. And your mind is like, yeah, we quit. We did. What are you doing? I spent more time fighting myself than training.
Everything he had built before 2002 was gone. And now he had to start from zero.
I was doing my own diet. I was doing everything. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, you know what? There's a show this weekend, 3 hours away from DC. I'm like, I'm not gonna tell anyone. So I remember I got in the car that night before the show and I drove all by myself.
And so, 7 years after walking away from the sport entirely, Shawn walked onto the stage of the 2009 IFBB North American Championships, weighing 212 pounds. He won the heavyweight class and the overall. And with that victory, after 16 years of injuries, addiction, and grief, Shawn Rhoden finally earned his IFBB Pro card. He should have been finished. By every measure that bodybuilding usually obeys, his window was closed. But the IFBB Pro stage doesn't care about your story. It only cares about what you bring under the lights. And Shawn was about to find out very quickly that earning your pro card and surviving on the pro stage are two very different things. The 2010 Dallas Europa Super Show was his first time stepping onto a professional bodybuilding stage. And this was the moment he had found out he's now swimming with the sharks.
I remember sitting backstage, watching every single person wade in and start questioning myself, like, why am I here? Like, these guys are huge,
Shawn finished 16th in that show. 16th in a sport where the top 6 is the line between relevance and invisibility. He could have read it as confirmation that his window had truly closed and walked away, this time with a pro card that proves he'd once been good enough. But he went back to work.
I just didn't see myself as that caliber of bodybuilder yet. I was like, man, I haven't trained in a while.
He returned to the Dallas Europa stage a year later in 2011 against a similar field and finished third. While third place doesn't sound like vindication, it qualified him for the pinnacle contest of the sport.
Because this is the 47th edition of the greatest bodybuilding show on earth.
To be on this stage tonight means a lot. I'll get to grace the stage where our former greats were before, so it's an honor to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, making his Olympia debut, they call him Flexatron Shawn Rhoden.
At 36, Shawn placed 11th in his first ever Mr. Olympia. For most pro debutants, it's a respectable placing and a foot in the door. But to him, it was confirmation that the impossible was actually happening. He was no longer a comeback story trying to claw back into relevance. He was a Mr. Olympia competitor. But 2012 was the year the bodybuilding world finally had to look up. In the 2012 season, Shawn won 4 pro shows. The biggest of them was the Arnold Classic Europe. He had gone from 16th to a multi-show pro champion in 24 months. And then came the 2012 Mr. Olympia. Going into that show, the conversation was Phil Heath versus Kai Green. Phil was the reigning champion with a physique most observers thought no one could touch, while Kai was the wild, theatrical genius, the fan favorite, and the underdog everyone assumed would push Heath to his limit. Those two were the story, and the docudrama Generation Iron, being filmed that year, put their rivalry front and center. Shawn stepped on stage with a brand new, improved 243-pound physique. His previously lagging lats and delts were no longer a liability, and he kept his tiny midsection and etched waist while expanding everything else. In a lineup full of monster truck wheels, his sweeping quads were some of the best, and his upper body nearly matched the thickness of his lower body. Apart from the reigning champ, no one else in the lineup could combine mass with aesthetics as Shawn did. He was the biggest surprise of the night, as Iron Man magazine called him the New Age Flex Wheeler.
To our third place finisher, Flexitron Shawn Rhoden.
This really is the story of this Olympia. Shawn Rhoden comes from 11th last year to 3rd this year, looks fantastic, and definitely put himself on the map.
This announcement showed that Shawn had finally arrived. But arriving and winning are not the same thing. He was now a Mr. Olympia contender, and part of the conversation at the very top of the sport. But if the story were a fair one, he would have spent the next 2 or 3 years closing the gap. The story was not going to be a fair one, because Phil Heath had no intention of going anywhere. And Shawn Rhoden was about to spend the next 6 years where many before him have.
The most competitive bodybuilding show, the most anticipated Olympia in many years. Ladies and gentlemen, Flexitron Shawn Rhoden.
Shawn Rhoden, like a bull in a china shop, just tore through much of the competition last night.
To our 4th place finisher, Shawn Rhoden.
The bodybuilding world, which had only just learned Shawn Rhoden's name, took this placing as evidence that maybe the 2012 result had been a flash in the pan. And the conversation moved on, back to Phil Heath and Kai Green at the top. But in 2014, Shawn was back. He took 2nd in the Arnold Classic Europe, Dubai Pro, won the Australian Grand Prix, and repeated his 2012 placing in this year's Olympia against a deeper field, in a sport that punishes age more than most. He was 39 years old, and he was still in the top 3 at the Mr. Olympia. In 2015, he placed 3rd once more, his 3rd top 3 Olympia finish in 4 years. Phil Heath won. Phil Heath was always winning, and he was now a 5-time champion, with Arnold's record of 7 wins, or maybe even Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman's record of 8 wins, coming into view.
The Orleans Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the 2016 Joe Weider's Olympia Fitness and Performance Weekend.
I think this is going to be one of the most exciting Olympias to date. DJ, of course, history will be made this weekend at the Olympia. I heard more than a handful saying Shawn Rhoden might have won last year.
And you basically told Phil that you will beat him in almost every shot. Now, you lost not only to Phil, but also to Dexter last year, knowing that there's 2 guys you got to beat in order to win this title. What improvements have you made?
I think I worked on everything. I didn't feel as if I lost last year. It didn't matter who walked away with the stand down. I know I brought a package that, in my opinion, should have won. It's just a matter of going back out here and presenting myself and being sure what I've done.
Shawn Rhoden, this guy is knocking on the door.
He came here to dethrone Phil Heath. That was his goal. I'd like him to control his midsection a little bit because he has very, very tiny waist. But if you relax the midsection and you start breathing or you're out of breath, it will show.
Shawn had excellent shape and symmetry with a small waist and excellent ab development, but letting his stomach relax too much between poses and the slight stomach distension made it much more difficult to unseat the current champ.
Your 2016 Mr. Olympia. His six-time Mr. Olympia.
There it is.
Phil, the gift.
Phil Heath makes it 6 in a row. Dorian Yates.
After his highest placing in an Olympia so far, the bodybuilding world started to seriously discuss the question nobody had thought to ask in 2012. Could Shawn Rhoden actually win this thing? It was the closest he'd ever been, and the next year was supposed to be his.
And from around the world, welcome to the 2017 Olympia press conference.
Second place last year, did Shawn Rhoden make adjustments? Are you going to be able to dethrone Phil Heath this year?
Yes, Phil Heath can be me, just like anybody else up here. And to spend all these months training to be number 2.
Flexitron, Shawn Rhoden.
But 5 years in a row now, he's been a top 4 finisher here. The triceps are very slight, and the thighs at times are very soft and smooth. There's a few things. He relaxes his stomach a little bit more than I'd like him to see.
Shawn came in heavier than he'd ever been before. The decision had been made to add size and push for a more imposing physique that could match the mass of the rest of the lineup. The reasoning was sound on paper, but the execution betrayed him.
To your 5th place finisher, Shawn Rhoden.
I know he wanted to bring something a little bit different, but it didn't quite play out for him this year.
Phil Heath won his 7th straight title that night. The bodybuilding press, looking at Shawn's 5th place finish at age 42, drew the obvious conclusion. Most champions were retiring by that age, and his window was closing. He'd peaked at 2nd in 2016, and the trajectory was now bending downward. Shawn went home, took stock, and started preparing for 2018 and continued training with legendary coach Charles Glass. He was thinking of yet another comeback, but he had no idea that within months, before he'd ever made it to that stage, he would be lying in a hospital bed with a doctor telling him his entire career might already be over. Unlike the previous years, the 2018 Mr. Olympia was a story about 2 men who both should not have been on that stage. Phil Heath was recovering from a double hernia surgery, which had compromised the one thing he could not afford to compromise, his midsection. Phil had built his entire reign on a complete physique, and now in the weeks before the most important defense of his career, he was carrying a distended, surgically altered abdomen into contest prep. He was still the favorite, but he was not entirely himself. Across the country, Shawn Rhoden was preparing for a contest most observers had already written him out of. He'd spent the early months of 2018 in a hospital bed, recovering from 2 bleeding ulcers and a hemoglobin level so dangerously low that doctors warned him his career might be finished.
When Shawn texted me and said, I'm very, very tired and I'm taking tomorrow off, I don't think he's ever texted me and said he's very, very tired. He said, I'm in the most pain I've ever been in my life. And immediately I said, go to the hospital.
I just felt dead. The nurse kind of came back and looked at me, and she's like, we need to admit you. And the next thing I knew, they were like, hey, we need to get you a blood transfusion.
Most of the conversation about who could finally beat Phil in 2018 was about Big Ramy, the Egyptian mass monster whose freak size was theoretically the only thing that could outflank Phil's complete package. Shawn Rhoden was barely in the conversation.
I remember coming out of the hospital and the first day back, I was at home on my treadmill. And I remember sending pictures to Chris and said, we're still in, Chris.
He stripped the mistakes of his 2017 prep off the extra mass and the muddy conditioning and rebuilt the body that had earned him 2nd place in 2016.
This year is a little different, man. I see Shawn trains in a snowsuit all the time. And this year, he's showing off a little more skin. The confidence level has to be pretty high this year.
The shadows don't give a shit. I remember texting Chris and said, hey, this Olympia, it's all in. I'm going for broke. Like, whatever it takes to get this one, like, I'm all in. For me, this one is complete redemption.
Arnold Classic, Olympia, which one obviously means more to you?
Beating Phil. I mean, he's narrow. I think his front double bicep is crap. His front lat spread look like a crab. I don't think he's ever done a side chest. This is not a side chest in a pose. I mean, there are 7 other poses besides a rear double bicep. So congratulations to Mr. Olympia for what he has done, but I don't think he has done anything for the sport of bodybuilding personally. I think it's time for a change.
Folks, we are back once again, the 2018 Olympia once again.
Actually, somebody who thinks that he beat Phil in 2015 and 2016.
I've trained my ass off this year with the attitude of I have nothing to lose. So yes, I took the time to study film. I took the time to study texture, big ramming, pose for pose, and I've done my damn homework.
This is your words. Phil's front double bicep, crap. Lat spread, crap. Side chest, he never done a side chest.
Yes, I did say all those. So did Jay Cutler interview. I was just speaking facts. Last year, stomach broke off with a broken jaw. I had to eat 2 straws to make the top 5. I've had plenty of time this year to get my shit together to come back here and get back on stage and present myself as Mr. Olympia.
I have nothing to say to him. Talk is cheap. He'll find out tomorrow, and he'll have that same looking Eeyore-looking face backstage.
This is it, folks, the last comparison for the title of Mr. Olympia.
We all have a limitation where our physiques look the best. Phil shows up, Shawn Rhoden's there. Where Phil was lacking was Shawn Rhoden's strong point, and that was the midsection.
I still thought, even on Friday night, that I'm easily gonna win this show. Woke up the next day, Hani Rambod, my trainer, that comes in, bad news, you're not gonna win. There's no way mathematically that I can win or that I still can fight.
It would have sent the wrong message to all the other competitors that you could show up with a bloated stomach and win even though everything else is good. You can't. That was enough. That Shawn was at his absolute best on that day.
And the title of 2018 Mr. Olympia to our winner and new Olympia champion.
Boom, there it is. It has happened in Las Vegas. The defending champion has been knocked out. There weren't many people that would have ever dared to predict this outcome.
Shawn, congratulations, my friend. You have done the unthinkable. You have beaten the great and 7-time Olympia champion, Phil Heath. You believed in yourself. You told everybody you were not messing around. You came here to win, and you are the new Mr. Olympia.
It's been a long journey, and I'm thankful for today. I know people might laugh at me when I say that, hey, one day I was going to be a Mr. Olympia, but here I am, folks.
Right on that stage, Shawn Rhoden defied all the odds, made one of the greatest comebacks in bodybuilding, and rewrote history by becoming the oldest champion to ever win the Sandow.
How many more years?
I'll be back. I'm going to leave it at that.
But he would not be back. In 28 days, he would be in a hotel room in Sandy, Utah. And the most decorated night of his life would become, in retrospect, the last night he was ever fully whole. 28 days after he was crowned Mr. Olympia, Shawn traveled to Salt Lake City for a weekend of meet and greets and photo sessions and checked into the Marriott Courtyard Hotel in Sandy, Utah. What happened next is something the public will only ever know through court documents. On the afternoon of October 12, 2018, a female competitive bodybuilder alleged that she had finished a photo session and decided to visit Shawn at his hotel before leaving. The photographer she was working with stayed downstairs in the lobby as she went up to Shawn's room alone. According to the probable cause statement and charging documents, the encounter, per her account, escalated into forced sexual contact. She told investigators Shawn eventually stopped only when she said the photographer waiting in the lobby would suspect something was wrong if she didn't return. The investigation began quietly, and then for 9 months, nothing happened publicly. Shawn went home, resumed his life as the reigning Mr. Olympia, and started preparing for what was supposed to be the most anticipated title defense of his career. The bodybuilding world had no idea anything was wrong. Then the silence broke. Salt Lake County prosecutors filed 3 felony counts against Shawn in the 3rd District Court: rape, object rape, and forcible sexual abuse. An arrest warrant was issued with the bail set at $750,000. The next day, before Shawn had even appeared in court, American Media CEO David Pecker, who owned the Mr. Olympia at the time, issued a public statement where he revoked Shawn's eligibility for the 2019 Mr. Olympia and all future Olympia competitions. Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazines, both owned by AMI, would suspend all coverage of Shawn until the case was resolved. In the 55-year history of the Mr. Olympia contest, no reigning champion had ever been banned. Shawn was the first. The next day, the IFBB Professional League stated that they were monitoring the situation and would take no action. For a man who had just been stripped of his ability to defend the title he'd spent 16 years climbing back to win, the silence of his own federation was kind of its own verdict.
The way the IFBB treated him was so sad because, to me, you're innocent to proven guilty. And these people that said they were his friends, or the ones that say, oh, I've known Shawn for years and years and years, but yet turn their back on him. And then they turn around and put up all these condolences after they turn their back on him. I'm just like, you two-faced pricks. It's like...
On July 23rd, Shawn voluntarily turned himself in. His attorneys negotiated the bail down to $250,000. The arrest warrant was vacated, and Shawn entered a plea. Not guilty. He vigorously denied the charges and looked forward to being cleared in court.
So now you were the closest person to Shawn. Can you clear the air?
Yeah, he always denied that he did anything with that woman, for sure. From what he told me, there was no sex at all.
But how would the DNA come up with DNA from him then?
They just spit of him.
There was sperm? That's rumors. False.
No, the semen, it wasn't his. I know that after this thing supposedly happened, she went in the hall of the hotel and she took picture with Shawn and some other people. Like she had a photographer with her or something.
After she left his room?
Yeah, after she left his room. When the police came by later to his hotel room, like Shawn was just, letting them do whatever they wanted. There's a lot of things that's not right with this case, for sure. He worked with her at the booth once. I don't know, she wanted to do a national show or something, and he had helped her out. He gave her some money. That's what Shawn does. He's paid for so many men or women, flight and hotel, and he's always wanted to help.
I never believed he did it because I don't think there's any reason to do that. Girls were after him like flies on shit almost.
Well, apparently he never gave her the address or anything. She found that out and she came to bring, what Shawn told me, he's like, she wanted to thank him because he had helped her before for her show, but giving him the money. So she wanted to bring him some muffins or something. And she showed up to his hotel. And supposedly her husband dropped her off.
So it was not some photographer?
There was a photographer with her somehow, apparently, yeah.
You're going there for something and it seems like maybe she got caught out with the husband, so rather than look like a whore or whatever, he raped me. And
what happened next wasn't a trial or a verdict. It was something far worse for a man whose entire career, identity, and livelihood depended on a single federation that had now decided he no longer existed.
Next year, are you confident you'll be in the Mr. Olympia?
I just retired.
No, really?
Okay, I'll be back competing in no time.
Are you confident in your legal team and everything?
Yes, sir.
The case never went to trial. COVID hit in early 2020, and the Utah courts slowed. A trial date was set, then pushed again, and then it stopped being set at all. Shawn's legal team continued to prepare for a fight that was never given a date. In the meantime, the IFBB quietly let his pro card expire and denied his attempt to renew it. And promotional posters that briefly featured him later at the 2020 Arnold Classic were pulled within hours. He had no pro card, no upcoming shows, and no path back to the Olympia stage. But he kept training.
He was still training and he was still hoping to do the Olympia. Like he was ready to do the Olympia. He came to the Olympia ready to step on stage in case they would let him. So he was always hopeful. I think he knew what he didn't do, knowing that he was at some point, the truth is going to come out and then they're going to let me. So
the face he showed the public was composed. He attended expos, promoted bodybuilding, and smiled in photos. He looked, to anyone who didn't know him well, like a man waiting patiently for his name to be cleared. The man behind that face was disintegrating. According to his closest training partner, Stan Delongeau, the legal fight was taking a profound toll. The financial losses, the professional erasure, the public assumption of guilt, and the slow, grinding silence of a case that wouldn't end.
Because they were saying it was not a high priority case. So it's like, well, if this is actually a rape, it should be a high priority case. They didn't treat it like a priority for sure.
Stan also revealed that Shawn had 2 heart attacks, which he survived but never talked about publicly.
Did you know that Shawn had a prior heart attack?
Yeah, I was one of the 4 or 5 people who knew about it.
So he had 2 prior heart attacks to the fatal one.
2, yeah. Within a few weeks, maybe 6 weeks apart.
In 2021, Shawn moved from Santa Barbara to Las Vegas and signed with a new supplement company. According to some of his friends, he was close to an arrangement with Jake Wood, the new owner of the Olympia, with reports saying that he was training again for a bodybuilding contest. There was still no official confirmation that he would be allowed back on the Olympia stage, and the case was still open, but the doors were starting to crack. On Halloween night 2021, Shawn drove from Las Vegas to Santa Barbara to spend the evening with his 6-year-old daughter and posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away." It was to be their last Halloween together, though neither of them could have known it. 5 days later, he posted to Instagram one more time, a shirtless photo captioned, "Brick by brick and patience it will take. See you on the other side." The very next day, the bodybuilding world woke up to this terrible news.
This just in, Shawn Rhoden has passed away
at 46 years old.
Very young age.
Because it appears that he had a heart attack.
There was speculation that it was heart-related.
I mean, he was one of the individuals who was seen as like the careful ones.
He wasn't somebody that I soon blasted year-round.
We can address the elephant in the room. It's like a lot of people say, oh, he keeps getting on gear. He was not on gear. Since 2019, he barely had a couple shots here and there, and he was not consistent. He was always missing shots, even when he was on prep for the Olympia. There was never a guy who abused anything.
I know what Shawn was doing, and he was definitely not abusing anything. He had a lot of stress in his life at this time. He had some health issues also lingering.
What was your initial response when you first heard it?
Not surprised.
No? Really?
Not surprised one bit.
And why do you say that?
3 years I've been saying, when you ask me or people around the country, they say, how does Shawn hold up? No one holds up under the circumstances that he's been under. No one holds up. Having your livelihood taken away. Worked his whole life to win that title. That was taken away with a phone call. And the entire industry turned its back. So am I surprised? No.
Shawn Rhoden's death came at the end of the worst year in modern bodybuilding's history, as some of the old school legends and others who built the modern sport were dying one after another. But Shawn was the loudest name in the loudest year. The IFBB Pro League's tribute was brief, bare, and bureaucratic, as comments were disabled on the official tribute posts. He died as the only Mr. Olympia in history to be banned while reigning. The only Mr. Olympia in history whose magazine coverage was officially suspended by his own federation. His case never went to trial. The 3 felony charges that had hung over him for nearly 3 years, that had cost him his pro card, his career, were never tested in a courtroom. He was neither cleared nor convicted. He was simply gone. Only 13 men in history before him have stood where Shawn Rhoden stood on that night in 2018. He was the oldest man to ever win it, the first Jamaican ever to win it. And no matter what anyone in any federation ever decides to say or unsay, this title will always have his name on it.
I didn't have anything to prove to anyone, but I wanted it. And I know I was going to do whatever it takes to get it. I didn't want to be a bodybuilder because I thought I was going to be a millionaire. There's no glitz, there's no glamour. Bodybuilding is about passion that you develop from day one. And that passion is going to drive you even at your lowest moments. You can never lose that passion.
I feel as if your destiny was written before you were ever born. It doesn't matter how far you run away from it. Something will always pull you back in the direction that you were meant to be. We are what we do.